In 1947, a returning GI could walk into a Sears Roebuck, spend $14 on a hand drill, and build his family a house by summer. No contractor, no permit office, no YouTube tutorial, just a man, a basement, and tools that actually lasted. Number 11 on this list was once found in every workshop in America, but hardware stores quietly stopped carrying it when a cheaper version tripled their profits. Number 3 created a bond so strong that engineers at NASA studied the technique for the space program. These 15 items were not just tools, they were economic engines. A generation of men built additions, fixed plumbing, wired garages, and saved thousands of dollars a year because their basements were factories. Then something changed, dude. Big box stores figured out that a man who cannot fix his own house has to pay someone who can. Before we start, hit that subscribe button because what you are about to learn might send you straight to your grandfather's garage. Let us count down the 15 forgotten workshop items that built the American dream. Number 15, the oilstone sharpening kit. Before carbide blades and disposable everything, your grandfather kept every edge in the house razor sharp with a single Arkansas oilstone. It was a gray or white block of novaculite mined from the Ouachita Mountains that sat in a wooden box on his workbench. He would drip a few drops of 3-in-1 oil onto the surface, set the chisel at 20 degrees, and draw it across in smooth figure eights. The sound was unmistakable, a quiet hiss against stone that meant someone was about to do real work. A good oilstone cost about $3 in 1955, and it lasted a life of time. Your grandfather sharpened kitchen knives, pocket knives, plane irons, and wood chisels on the same stone his father gave him. When the hardware store started selling pre-sharpened blades and electric sharpeners, the oilstone disappeared from the workbench. But anyone who has used one knows the edge it produces is smoother and longer lasting than anything a grinding wheel can match. Number 14, the hand crank bench grinder. Bolted to the corner of the workbench, this cast iron wheel was the emergency room of the workshop. Your grandfather could reshape a dull lawnmower blade, clean rust off a bolt, or put a new edge on a hatchet in 3 minutes. No electricity was needed. He would turn the crank with one hand and hold the tool against the spinning stone with the other, watching for the spark pattern to know when the angle was right. A Craftsman bench grinder cost about $6 in 1952. The stone wheels lasted years if you dressed them properly with a star wheel dresser. That rhythmic grinding sound, echoing up the basement stairs, meant Saturday morning had started. The smell of hot metal and stone dust was the cologne of the American father. The hand crank gave you control. Speed was patience. Patience made a perfect edge. Number 13, the bit brace and auger set. Before cordless drills, your grandfather bored holes through oak joists with nothing but arm strength and a bit brace. That beautiful sweeping crank handle, usually made of beech or rosewood, drove spiral auger bits through hardwood with a precision no power tool could touch. He would mark his spot with an awl, seat the lead screw, and start turning. The bit pulled itself into the wood. No slipping, no strip screws, no dead batteries. A Stanley bit brace cost about $4.50 in 1948. A full set of Irwin auger bits ran another $6. Your grandfather drilled holes for plumbing, door hardware, and furniture dowels with this setup. He built the bookshelf in the living room, the workbench itself, and probably your first treehouse. The bit brace was quiet enough to use at midnight without waking the baby. Try that with a Milwaukee impact driver. Number 12, hide glue in a pot. Every serious woodworker before 1960 kept a double boiler of hide glue warming on a hot plate. Those amber brown flakes, made from animal collagen, dissolved in water, and when heated to 140 degrees, created a bond that held furniture together for centuries. Your grandfather would brush it hot onto a joint, clamp it tight, and walk away knowing that chair would outlast him. A pound of hide glue flakes cost about 50 cents and made dozens of joints. The smell was unmistakable, warm, slightly sweet, faintly animal. It drifted through the basement and seeped into the workshop walls. Hide glue had one property that modern adhesives cannot match. It was reversible. Apply steam to a joint and it released cleanly, letting you repair a wobbly chair leg without destroying the wood. When yellow PVA glue hit the market in the 1960s, hardware stores pushed it hard. Easier to use, they said, no heating required. But yellow glue is permanent. You cannot undo it. A mistake becomes a disaster. Your grandfather's hide glue pot meant he could fix anything and fix it again 50 years later. Furniture restorers today pay $30 an ounce for the same stuff he bought by the pound. Number 11, the Stanley No. 5 jack plane. If your grandfather owned one hand tool that defined his craft, it was this. 14 inches of cast iron with a rosewood handle and a razor-sharp blade that could take a shaving thin enough to read a newspaper through. He would clamp a rough board to the bench, set the blade depth with a brass adjustment wheel, and push. Long curling ribbons of wood peeled away, leaving a surface smoother than any sandpaper could achieve. A Stanley No. 5 cost about $8.50 in 1955. Your grandfather used it to fit doors, flatten tabletops, chamfer edges, and clean up lumber that came rough from the sawmill. He bought rough-cut wood for half the price of surfaced boards and planed it himself. That single tool saved him hundreds of dollars over a lifetime. The sound of a sharp plane on pine is one of the most satisfying noises ever made. A soft whisper, followed by the tap of a shaving hitting the floor. Hardware stores stopped stocking quality hand planes when power planers arrived. They were faster, sure, but they were also loud, dangerous, and they left machine marks that still needed sanding. Your grandfather's jack plane left a surface ready for finish, straight off the blade. Number 10. The folding wooden rule. Before the tape measure conquered every tool belt, your grandfather reached for a 6-foot Lufkin or Stanley folding rule. Those brass-hinged boxwood sections snapped open with a satisfying click, and they held rigid for precise measurements. The brass slide extension on the end let him measure inside dimensions without math. Door frames, window openings, cabinet spaces, all measured dead accurate with a tool that fit in his back pocket. A folding rule cost about $2 in 1950, and it lasted decades. The numbers were stamped into the wood, not printed, so they never wore off. Your grandfather could hold that rule against a board one-handed, mark his cut with a pencil, and fold it back up in 3 seconds. Try that with a floppy tape measure that retracts and slices your finger. The folding rule disappeared because tape measures were cheaper to manufacture. Not better, just cheaper. Every finished carpenter who has used both knows the folding rule wins for accuracy. Number 9, the ratcheting screwdriver, not the modern kind with interchangeable bits. Your grandfather's Yankee spiral ratcheting screwdriver, made by North Brothers or by Stanley, drove screws with a push of the palm. Pressed down and the spiral mechanism spun the bit automatically. It had 3 positions, forward, reverse, and lock dot. He could drive a dozen brass screws into a hinge plate in the time it took to find an outlet for a power drill, a Yankee No. 130. It cost about $3.50. The spiral action was mesmerizing to watch. Push down, the shaft spun, the screw sank. No wrist fatigue, no stripped heads, no tangled extension cords running down the basement stairs. Children stood watching, hypnotized by the mechanical ballet of that chrome shaft spinning with each push. Hardware stores replaced them with cheap fixed screwdrivers and power drills, but nothing ever matched the elegant efficiency of the Yankee push drill. Number 8, the carpenter's wooden mallet. Your grandfather did not bang chisels with a claw hammer. He used a turned beechwood mallet, heavy in the head and light in the handle, that delivered force without damaging the tool. The broad face struck the chisel square, driving it through dovetails and mortises with a deep, satisfying thud that echoed off the basement concrete. A wooden mallet cost about $1.50 and lasted 20 years. The face would mushroom slightly over time, conforming to the work like a broken-in baseball glove. Your grandfather cut every joint in the dining room table with that mallet. The china cabinet, too. Joints so tight you could not slide a piece of paper into them. Modern rubber mallets bounce. Dead blow hammers feel lifeless. A proper beechwood mallet transfers energy like nothing else. Number 7, the hand-cranked drill press. Bolted to the workbench, this upright cast iron tool let your grandfather bore perfectly vertical holes with nothing but muscle power. A 3-jaw chuck held the bit, a feed lever lowered it into the wood, and a hand crank on the side turned the spindle at exactly the speed he wanted. Slow for hardwood, fast for softwood. Total control. A hand crank drill press cost about $12 in 1950. Your grandfather drilled dowel holes for furniture, countersunk screws for a flush finish, and bored perfectly centered holes in metal with this machine. No electricity bill, no trip breakers. Number 6, leather nail aprons. Every workshop had one hanging on a nail by the stairs. Split cowhide with 3 pockets, stamped with the local lumberyard logo. Your grandfather would tie it on and fill the center pocket with 8-penny common nails, the left with finishing nails, the right with screws. That apron was free. The lumberyard gave them away as advertising because they knew a man wearing their name would buy their wood for 30 years. The leather softened with sweat and sawdust until it hung like a second skin. Number 5, the draw knife. 2 handles, 1 curved blade. Your grandfather could strip bark from a fence post, shape a chair leg, or chamfer a beam edge in minutes. He would straddle the shaving horse, clamp the workpiece, and pull the draw knife toward his chest. Ribbons of green wood curled away, filling the basement with the sweet smell of fresh-cut oak. A draw knife cost about $2.50. It was the fastest way to shape wood ever invented, and it still is. Number 4, the breast drill. When a hole needed more power than a hand drill could give, and the nearest outlet was 100 feet away, your grandfather leaned his chest into the curved plate of a breast drill and cranked. His body weight became the feed pressure. The 2-speed gear let him bore through steel plate or masonry with patience and sweat. This tool built barns, hung gates, and drilled through foundation walls for plumbing runs. Number 3, liquid hide glue and scarf joints. Your grandfather could join 2 short boards into 1 long beam using nothing but angled cuts and hot hide glue. The scarf joint, cut at an 8-to-1 ratio, created a glue surface so large that the joint was stronger than the wood around it. NASA engineers in the 1960s studied traditional scarf joints when designing lightweight structural panels for the Apollo program. Your grandfather was doing aerospace engineering in his basement with a handsaw and a 50-cent pot of glue. The combination square, that 12-inch steel rule with a sliding cast iron head, was the most versatile measuring tool ever made. Your grandfather used it as a ruler, a tri-square, a miter gauge, a depth gauge, a marking tool, and a level. 7 tools in one for about $4. The machined steel rule slid through the head with a satisfying friction, locking precisely where he set it. He checked every cut, every joint, every assembly with that square. It was the last tool he picked up before declaring the job done. Number 1, the workbench itself, not a plastic folding table from a big box store. Your grandfather's workbench was a massive slab of laminated maple or beech, 4 inches thick, with a face vise on the left end and a tail vise on the right. He built it himself, probably from a popular mechanics plan, and it weighed 300 pounds. That bench did not move. It did not wobble. It did not flex. It was the foundation of every project he ever built. The vices held boards for planing. The dog holes accepted bench stops for clamping. The tool tray along the back kept chisels and pencils within reach. That bench was where your father learned to measure twice, where your mother's Christmas present took shape in secret, where a generation of Americans proved They did not need to hire someone to build the life they wanted. The workbench was not a tool, it was a declaration. I can build this myself. Try one thing this week. Find your grandfather's hand plane at the estate sale. Pick up a folding rule at the flea market. Sharpen a chisel on a stone instead of throwing it away. Then come back and tell me if the American dream was built by corporations or by men in basements who refused to pay someone else to do what they could do with their own two hands. Share which tool you remember in the comments.